Where is the actual flat bush? Bacon said as they came up out of the subway. He stopped and looked across the avenue at the entrance to Prospect Park. Do they keep it in there? Actually, they move it around, said Sammy. They'd had 2 drinks apiece, but for some reason, Sammy didn't feel in the least intoxicated. He wondered if fear forestalled the effects of alcohol. He wondered if he were more afraid of Tracy Bacon or of showing up for dinner at Ethel's late, reeking of gin, and with the world's largest piece of trafe in tow. In the subway station, he had bought a roll of sen-sen and eaten 4. It's on wheels. He gave a pull on the sleeve of Bacon's blue blazer. Come on, we're late. Are we? Bacon arched an eyebrow. You hadn't mentioned it. You don't even know me, said Sammy. How can you presume to razz me? As he buzzed for 2B, he had misplaced his key. He realized that he must be very, very drunk. It was the only possible explanation for what he was about to do. He wasn't sure exactly when the invitation had been extended, or at what point it became clear to Sammy that Bacon had accepted it. In the bar at the St. Regis, under the jovial gaze of Parrish's King Cole, their conversation had veered so quickly from Bacon's difficulties with the character of the escapist that Sammy could not remember now what wisdom, if any, he had been able to offer on that score. Almost at once it seemed Bacon had launched unprompted into a recitation, one that, while practiced, obviously still held great interest for him. Of his upbringing, education and travels, an extravagant tale. He had lived in Texas, California, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and most recently Seattle. His father was a brigadier general. His mother was a titled English woman he had sailed on a merchant ship. He had broken horses on Oahu. He had attended a boarding school where he played hockey and lacrosse and boxed a little, which, paradoxically, himself claimed to view as sadly lacking in some fundamental underpinning of sense or purpose. All the while, Sammy's own upbringing and education and his travels from Pitkin Avenue to Surf Avenue, alerting him to the unmistakable smell of bullshit, had been at war with his native weakness for romance. As he sat and listened with the ointment flavor of gin in his mouth, at once envious and unable to shake the echo of Bacon's blithe avowal, "I'm such an awful liar," there seemed to emerge, in spite of Bacon's good looks and his actor pals and his cool gin and tonic of a girlfriend, and regardless of the truth or falsehood of the claims, he was making an unmistakable portrait that Sammy was surprised to find he recognized. Tracy Bacon was lonely. He lived in a hotel and ate his meals in restaurants. His actor pals took him and his tale at face value, not because they were credulous, but because it was less effort to do so, and now, with an unerring instinct, he had sniffed out the loneliness in Sammy. Bacon's presence at Sammy's side now, waiting for an answer from 2B, was testimony to this. It didn't occur to Sammy that Bacon was just drunk and 21, not 24, and making everything up as he went along. "This is the most angry-sounding door buzz I've ever heard," Bacon said when it finally came. Sammy held the lobby door for him. "That was actually the voice of my mother," he said. "There's a little wax cylinder in there." "You're just trying to scare me," Bacon said. They climbed the steps that had wearied Sammy's legs for so many years now. Sammy knocked. "Stand back," he said. "Stop it now. Watch your fingers, Ma. Look who it is. Don't look so excited." "Where's your cousin?" "They already had plans, Ma. I bought a friend. This is Mr. Tracy Bacon. He's going to be playing the escapist on the radio." "Look out you don't bump your head," was the first thing Ethel said to Bacon. Then, my goodness, she smiled and held out her hand, and Sammy saw that she was impressed. Tracy Bacon made quite an impression. She stepped back to get a better look and stood there like one of the tourists Sammy waded through on his way in and out of work every day. "You're very good looking." He just missed sounding like a wholehearted compliment. There might have been some comment intended on the deceptiveness of attractive packages. "Thank you, Mrs. Clay," said Bacon. Sammy winced. "That isn't my name," Ethel said, but not unkindly. She looked at Sammy. "I never cared for that name." "Well, come in, sit down. I made too much. Oh well. Dinner was ready once already. And you missed the candles, I'm sorry to say, but we can't postpone sundown, even for big-shot comic book writers. I heard they changed that rule, said Sammy. You smell like Sen-Sen. I had a little drink, she said. Oh, you had a drink, that's good. What? I can have a drink if I want. Of course you can have a drink. I have a bottle of Slivovitz someplace. Would you like me to get it out? You can drink the whole bottle if you want. Sammy whirled around and made a face at Bacon. What did I tell you? They followed Ethel into the living room. The electric fan was going in the window, but in accordance with Ethel's personal theories of hygiene and thermodynamics, faced outward so as to draw the warm air out of the room, leaving an entirely theoretical zone of coolness behind. Bubby was already on her feet, a big confused grin on her face, her spectacles glinting. She was wearing a loose cotton dress printed with scarlet poppies. Mom, said Ethel, in English, this is a friend of Sammy's. Mr. Bacon, he's an actor on the radio. Bubby nodded and grabbed hold of Bacon's hand. Oh, yes, how are you? She said in Yiddish. She seemed to recognize Tracy Bacon at once, which was odd, since she had not seemed to recognize anyone in years. It was never clear afterward who she thought Bacon was. She shook his hand vigorously with both of hers. For some reason, the sight of Bubby shaking Bacon's large pink hand made Ethel laugh. Sit down, she said. Mom, let go of him. She looked at Sammy. Sit down. Sammy started to sit down. I don't get a kiss from you anymore, Mr. Sam Clay? Sammy kissed his mother. Ma, you're hurting me. Ouch. She let go. Like to break your neck, she said. She seemed to be in a very good mood. I'll get dinner on the table. Careful with the shovel. Funny. Is that how you talk to your mother? Said Bacon. Oh, I like your new friend, said Ethel. She took hold of his arm and gave his huge right biceps a pat. She looked supremely vindicated. The shock on Bacon's face appeared to be genuine. This young man loves his mother. Boy, do I, said Bacon. Can I help you in the kitchen, Mrs. It's Clayman, K-L-A-Y-M-A-N, period. Mrs. Clayman, I have a lot of experience peeling potatoes or whatever you might need me to do. Now it was Ethel's turn to look shocked. Oh, no, it's hardly fixed. I'm just reheating everything again. Sammy wanted to point out that reheating everything several times in order to remove as much flavor as possible was an integral part of Ethel's culinary technique, but he held his tongue. Bacon had embarrassed him. You wouldn't find it fit in my kitchen, Ethel said. Sit down. Bacon followed her into the kitchen. Sammy had yet to see this new friend take no for an answer. In spite of his height and his swimmer's shoulders, it was not a confidence in his own abilities that seemed to direct Tracy Bacon so much as an assuredness of being welcome wherever he went. He was golden and beautiful, and he knew how to peel a potato. To Sammy's surprise, Ethel let Bacon follow. I can never reach that bowl up there, he heard her say. The one with the toucan. So, Bubby, Sammy said, how are you? Fine, darling, she said. I'm fine. How are you? Come sit down. He tried to steer her into the other yellow chair. She pushed him away. Go, I want to stand. All day I'm sit. From the kitchen, Sammy could hardly miss the cheerful thumping of Bacon's voice with its lyric upper register. Like Sammy's, the constant barrage of chatter Bacon maintained seemed designed to impress and to charm, with a key difference. Bacon was impressive and charming. Ethel's burnt sugar laugh came drifting out of the kitchen. Sammy tried to hear what Bacon was saying to her. So what did you do today, Bubby? He said, flopping on the couch. Belmont's open. Did you go out to the track? Yes, Bubby said agreeably. I went to the races. Did you win any money? Oh, yes. You were never sure with Bubby whether you were really teasing her or not. Joseph sends you a kiss, he said in Yiddish. I'm glad. Bubby said in English, and how is Samuel? Samuel? Oh, he's fine, Sammy said. She kicked me out. Bacon emerged from the kitchen wearing a little dishwashing apron patterned with pale blue soap bubbles. I guess I was getting in the way. Oh, you don't want to do that, Sammy said. I got in the way of a dinner roll once and required 9 stitches. Funny, said Ethel, stepping into the living room. She untied her apron and threw it at Sammy. Come and eat. Dinner was a firm muff, a dozen clothespins, and some old dish towels boiled up with carrots. The fact that the meal was served with a bottle of prepared horseradish enabled Sammy to conclude that it was intended to pass for braised short ribs or beef flanken. Many of Ethel's specialties arrived, thus uncoated by condiments. Tracy Bacon took 3 helpings. He cleaned his plate with a piece of challah. His cheeks were rosy with the intensity of his pleasure in the meal. It was either that or the horseradish. Whew, he said, laying down his napkin at last. Mrs. K, I never had better in my life. Yes, but better what? Sammy said. Did you get enough to eat? Ethel said. She looked pleased, but it seemed to Sammy a little bit taken aback. Did you save room for my babka? Bubby said. I always save room for dessert, Mrs. Cavalier. Bacon said. He turned to Sammy. Is babka dessert? An eternal question among my people, Sammy said. There are some who argue that it's actually kind of a very small hassock. Ethel got up to make bacon. Bacon stood up and started to clear away the dishes. Enough already, Sammy said, pushing him back down into his chair. You're making me look very bad here. He gathered up the dirty plates and utensils and went and carried them into the tiny kitchen. Don't stack them, his mother said by the way of thanks. It gets the bottoms dirty. I'm just trying to be helpful. Your kind of help is worse than no help. She set the percolator on the ring and turned on the gas. Stand back, she said, striking a match. You must have been lighting gas stoves for 30 years. But each time it was as if entering a burning building. She ran water in the sink and slid the dishes in. Steam rose from the bubbles of Lux. The dishwater must, of course, be antibacterially hot. He looks just like